Hey everybody, Ben with Malehanger.com, and welcome to the very first introductory episode of the Malehanger podcast. I'm Ben, of course, and in this episode, I'm basically just gonna do a quick introduction about me, my background, how I got into specifically male enhancement, penis enlargement, all this crazy stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about my product, Malehanger. Of course, this isn't all about it, this episode, all about Malehanger, but going to be a good Malehanger heavy episode, of course being the very first episode. So, real briefly, I'm going to run through a couple things here. First of all, if you happen to like this episode, please let me know you do by clicking that like button down below. Leave a comment, even better, even if it's just a quick, hey, what's up, bro? Ask a question, whatever. I love it all, plus it helps me with algorithms, all that kind of stuff. And of course, subscribe. Click that subscribe button down there too. That'd be really awesome of you. Not an off the top of my head kind of thinker, especially when I'm on the spot like this all the time. But, so be looking down here a little bit. Don't mind me if you're watching. I do have to remind myself of where I'm at once in a while. If you're listening, by the way, to a podcast, if you're just out there listening through iTunes, Google Play, however you found me, your favorite podcast app, if you could also leave a review there if you're able to, and, of course, subscribe. That'd be awesome. Quick thing here, disclaimer. I've got to put this out there. I've been around this stuff since 1999 or so, helping guys online, doing things myself, first-hand experiences, that kind of stuff. I do tend to sound like a lot of times I know what I'm talking about, but please don't take that as medical advice. I'm not a medical professional myself. I don't have any sort of advanced degree or licensing in, say, physical therapy, anything to do with the body, any kind of medical background. I'm just a guy with first-hand experience helping other guys and people, not include anybody, seriously. And I've been doing this, again, since 1999, first with exercises, that kind of stuff, and then later on with my own product, Malehanger, for about the last 12 years or so there. And yeah, don't take my words as medical advice, even direct one-on-one personal training. I'm just talking for informational purposes. Anything you decide to take from one of my podcast episodes and apply to your own life by chance, that's on you and you alone. I take no responsibility for that, neither does YouTube or anywhere you might listen to this. So, that said, I basically got started, again, back in 1999. I had about a year left of active duty in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah, served 4 years, got out with an honorable discharge, and then decided I was done. I had a good time, but I was ready to get back to civilian life. And it was a long weekend, had some time to myself to roam around off base, decided to go swing by a video rental store back when those were still a thing, and see what I could find. So while I was walking around this video store, I happened upon or found a movie called Boogie Nights. For those of you who are not familiar, it's basically one of Mark Wahlberg's early movies where he and Burt Reynolds were in together. Mark Wahlberg's character was basically playing the part of John Holmes, a loosely retold story of this porn star, John Holmes, his time in porn, how he shot to the top, became Mr. Big, so to speak, literally and figuratively. He was the name in porn at the time for men, at least. Lot of hype, a lot of marketing around this guy. Built an amazing career and really just was at the top of his game. But then he developed a cocaine habit, unfortunately, along the way, which ended up just basically destroying his life. Took him to the bottom of the bottom with his career, whatever career he did have, blew it. Burned through most of his money, from what I remember reading and hearing. And basically, he ended up having to turn to a life of crime to support his habit. Ran into the wrong people, who became known as the Wonderland Gang in Los Angeles at the time, back in the early 80s, and ended up getting arrested for murder, believe it or not. Now, he got off, was acquitted, I believe it was for lack of evidence. If you want to learn more about that, it's actually been written up and talked about quite a bit. There's even like a podcast miniseries I think I remember hearing a few years back, specifically about the Wonderland Gang, John Holmes' involvement, all that kind of stuff. So, not to rattle on too much about that, but basically that's where my interest in this stuff began. I hopped on what was the internet back then, 1999, 2000-ish. I think it was through a search engine called Lycos. And I basically... Sorry, I got a quick sip here. Keep the palate moist. Sorry if you don't like that moist word. And basically I just started trying to look for things about John Holmes himself. I wanted to know a little bit more about him. Was he really who he was claimed to be, hyped up to be in, the industry of porn? Mostly about the crimes, the murder scene, how that all really went down, what anybody knew about that, because I've always had kind of a fascination with that kind of stuff, crime and drama, true crime, that kind of stuff. Come to find out, along the way, quick little tidbit for you of info, if you find this kind of stuff cool, the John Holmes murder trial was actually one of the first, at least here in America, where video recorded evidence or footage of the crime scene was used as evidence in the trial. If I remember it right, the police officers who happened upon the scene were called there to check everything out, were so taken back by just the gruesomeness, the bloodiness of the crime scene. One of them, or however many of them, were like, dang, we got to get this on camera. This is just crazy. So, not to laugh about that, but it's just, yeah, so that's cool, in my opinion. And then it basically took off from there for me, personally. I ended up being directed to, in some of my search results, some information, some hyperlinks, if you will, about penis enlargement, early online marketing toward this stuff, something I'd honestly never heard of up until this point in time in my life. For me personally, my penis was just something I, to be quite frank, urinated and masturbated with. It was for, relieving myself and fun. That was pretty much it. I never had a thought about, was it big enough? What size was it? I had no idea at the time even how big my penis was. Again, it was just a part of my body. Then all of a sudden I'm introduced to something called penis enlargement, and I'm like, what? You can make it bigger, maybe? I wasn't sure how to take that at first, but then I found one of these, it was an online forum, as it was called. I think they still use that term, kind of like Reddit these days. A gathering, if you will, of like-minded people. And the people on this forum were talking about stretches, squeezing exercises you could do with your hands, even something called penis weight hanging. So I joined this first forum, started reading around it first, probably for a few weeks. I just did nothing but read because I was just so fascinated. I was like, this is a lot to take in, holy cow. But then I started interacting with some of the members on this forum, asking questions. Do these exercises really work? How do you do this or that thing? And decided to give it a go. Honestly, for what it was worth, which, it didn't cost me anything. It was all free. I figured, why not? Natural curiosity took over. And basically, I started out with what was called jelking. You'll have to look that up on your own. It's kind of like it sounds, Jelk or Jelq, depending on who you ask. I've even spelt... I'm not going to get carried off on that tangent about spelling. But milking, jelking, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's just a manual using your hands only exercise, in other words. Not going to try and demonstrate it here. That's where I started my first couple months. Stuck with it for, again, about 2 months. Started to see some changes in my size, believe it or not. I had, after 2 months or so, I'd increased my length as well as my girth a full half an inch. I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was like, what? This really works? I mean, it's one thing to read dozens of people talking about something like this working, but then actually try it yourself and then see it physically working for yourself firsthand. I was hooked. So, long story short, I quickly got tired of this jelqing exercise, as it was called. Decided to try stretching with my hands, different techniques of that. And then I later, I'd say by around my 5th month mark of being actively involved with this forum and the exercises, I found out about a technique called, again, penis weight hanging, which is basically just like it sounds. You figure out a way to attach some weights to your penis, starting out with basically nothing at first, maybe a pound or two. This is a 2.5 pound plate for demonstration purposes. Visual. For those of you listening, I'm literally holding up just a steel weight plate that like you'd see in a gym. And you attach it to a device like Malehanger, a penis weight hanging device, and using something as simple as a slip knot like this. Of course, you wrap your penis with some protective cloth first. Not going to get all that here. I teach my customers how to do this kind of stuff in very thorough detail. And you go from there. I mean, you use what's called a routine, just kind of like you would with physical exercise in the gym. Start low and slow and build your way up. And penis weight hanging was my new favorite thing all of a sudden because I continued to see gains. I didn't have to guess with what I was doing with my hands. It was all very predictable, calculated, so to speak, easy to follow and keep up with. And the rest is history as far as that stuff goes. I basically ended up adding a full 2 inches in length and a total of 1 inch in girth from the earlier hand exercises, and then adding in the weight hanging made up the difference there for me. I took about 12 years or so off, basically from life getting in the way, meeting my amazing wife, who I'm still married to now, and developing my business, of course, with Malehanger, having a little one, all that kind of stuff that happens to everybody. Well, a lot of people anyway. And yeah, I took about 12 years off, and then as of, it was the beginning of this month, October of 2021, I officially restarted weight hanging with my device, Malehanger. So I'm not just, the company president, but I'm also my own best client, so to speak, if you remember those Hair Club for Men commercials. Gotta re-wet the palette there, sorry. And now I've got a full-blown business. I sell Malehanger basically around the world. I've done it since 2012. Anywhere you can think of where there might be somebody with a penis and open access to the internet, I can get you one. $60 plus shipping, depending on where you live. And, yeah. So if you want to check it out, malehanger.com is my site. And honestly, I get a lot of questions about, in regards to selling Malehanger, shipping it. I had a nose tickle there, sorry. I think it's the makeup I put on earlier. Anyway, I'm always discreet. I ship discreetly, just like anybody who sells adult novelties these days. There's nothing penis stamped all over the outside of your package. You don't have to worry about that. And I always take a very professional approach with my clients, customers, the guys I work with, people I work with. And I basically approach it like a urologist. Even though I'm not a urologist or have a medical background of any kind, that's how I talk about it. There's no weird kink or fetish in it for me. The once in a blue moon occasion here and there I've had with somebody trying to turn it into something that it's not, I nip it in the bud right there. I'm like, look, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not why I'm here. Let's talk about making it bigger and leave it at that. Okay, so I highly encourage anybody you've got a penis, you've ever thought about making it bigger for whatever the reason, look into it. It can be a very rewarding thing. And I know it has been for me. Not only that, but I just love helping other people do it. Giving back, so to speak. I'm just looking over my notes. How penis enlargement works, that's one more thing real quick I want to hit on. Basically, if you've ever heard of a concept called tissue traction, or even if you have not, it's something that the medical community uses. They've done so for quite a while now. I can't tell you how long it's been in practice. But basically, arms, legs, they can be made permanently longer. First, of course, the surgeon will go in, make a few cuts in the bones of the limb. Then they'll put basically what looks like a traction device, a cage, if you will, a metal cage that has bolts that go into the bones. I hope you're numb when this happens. I'm sure, obviously. You gotta be. And then you wear these cages, or a cage on the limb. There are knobs on it. You turn them out a little bit every day. I've heard it's uncomfortable, but gotta be worth it if people do it for the reasons that they do. And eventually, over time, that limb will be stretched permanently. The tissues stretch, the bone heals in that little space that develops along the way, and the arm or leg becomes permanently longer. Very similar concept with penis enlargement traction, whether you're using an extender device or, again, Malehanger. A little bit of weight or resistance in the beginning. The tissues adapt. You increase a little bit. Tissues adapt. You force a new stretch. Wash, rinse, repeats. Very similar concept. If you've ever seen an earlobe gauged out to pretty crazy sizes, similar idea there too. Once those tissues are stretched past what's known as a point of no return, the only way to get them smaller again is surgery. That's pretty much it, honestly, for this episode. Just a quick, hey, what's up? This is me, who I am, where I've been, and a little bit about my product, Malehanger. Thank you very much for watching and or listening. And again, click like if you liked the episode, or even if you didn't. Hey, just do me a favor, okay, please? Or subscribe, comment down below. All the above is best, of course. And I'll see you on the next episode.